Welcome to another encore presentation of Heart to Heart with Anna. Today's show is from Season 2 and was episode number 8, Adult Survivors Finding Love. I've been very blessed to have met the guests from today's show in person, and I knew I had to have them on the show. The theme for Season 2 was There is Hope, and this show is one of my favorites to illuminate that theme. I think all parents hope their children will grow up and find love just like they did. What happens when your child is born with a congenital heart defect? Will they be able to find someone to love them for who they are and want to share a life with them? Today's show features two couples, Jenny and Nick Busta and Lauren and Chris Bednards. I hope you enjoy this encore presentation for Heart Month 2016.
Welcome to Heart with Anna, featuring your host, Anna Jaworski. Our program is a program designed to empower the CHD or congenital heart defect community. Our program may also help families who have children who are chronically ill by bringing information and encouragement to you in order to become an advocate for your community. Now, here is Anna Jaworski.
Welcome to the 8th episode of the second season of Heart to Heart with Anna, a show for the congenital heart defect community. Our purpose is to empower members of our community with resources, support, and advocacy information. We are living in a special time in history. In the 1980s, babies who were born with congenital heart defects, especially critical congenital heart defects, which require surgery in the first days or weeks of life, were not expected to survive childhood, much less to adulthood. Yet today we have two special guests who were born in the 1980s and who not only survived their childhood, but have also made it to adulthood and have even found love. When my son was born in 1994 with hypoplastic-left-heart syndrome, I was told that only 1 in 4 of the children who survived the Norwood procedure lived to see age 5. My tiny support group of 4 families who all had a baby or child with HLHS seemed to validate the seriousness of those statistics. Within 18 months, 2 of the 4 children had passed away, one from complications with a heart transplant and the other due to complications with the Fontan procedure. My tiny group, however, has had much better results in the prognosis given to us. Instead of only 1 child in our group making it to adulthood, there are 2 survivors. In fact, for the first time in history, we actually have more adults with congenital heart defects, or CHDs, alive than babies being born with CHDs. This fact gives great hope to those of us who have children with CHDs. But even almost 20 years ago, I found myself in the waiting room waiting for Alex to survive his first surgery, wondering if he would ever grow up, ride a bike, go to college, or find his true love. He's accomplished all of those goals except for finding a true love. That's why today's show is so important, because many parents worry that their CHD survivors will not find anyone to love them and want to share their lives with them simply because they were born with a funky heart. There are survivors out there wondering why anyone would want to get involved with someone with a complex medical history. Today we'll talk to 2 CHD survivors and their husbands to discover how they found true love, what their greatest fears are, and what advice they would like to impart upon our listening audience. To discuss this topic today, our guests are Lauren and Chris Bednards and Jenny and Nick Busta. Lauren Bednards is 26 years old. She was born with a congenital heart defect called tricuspid atresia and hypoplastic right ventricle, or simply put, half a heart. She has had 2 open heart surgeries, with the last one being a Fontan 24 years ago. She is married to an amazing man named Chris, who is 29 years old. They met by chance through Lauren's father back in November of 2008. They dated for 3 years before marrying on December 21st, 2011, in a small courthouse ceremony. In the 2.5 years they have been married, they have moved cross-country once, soon to be twice. They have dealt with many medical issues concerning Lauren's health, yet their life is full of so many normal couple experiences too. They feel blessed to have each other. Chris is an amazing husband. Congenital heart defects do not have to stand in the way of true love. Welcome to Heart with Anna, Lauren.
Hey, thank you for having me again.
Well, it's wonderful to have you on the show again, and for those listeners who have been faithful listeners from the beginning, this is actually Lauren's 3rd time on the show. She is one of my expert guests, so I'm happy to have you on the show. Tell me, Lauren, when you were a little girl, was it always a goal for you to get married?
Oh, I guess I wouldn't put it as a goal, as more as a dream. I mean, I guess many little girls dream of finding that Prince Charming I was always hoping that I would get married and start a family, and my parents always told me that it didn't matter if I had a heart defect, that the right person would come around and that I shouldn't ever give up.
Well, and they have good cause to tell you not to give up because, look, you've met an amazing man. What was your biggest concern when telling Chris about your heart defect, and when did you tell him?
Well, oddly enough, I didn't have to tell him. My dad introduced me to him without me being there. So Chris already knew beforehand that I had a heart defect and had open heart surgeries. I'm not quite sure if he understood everything or probably at first comprehended that I was fixed, or it might have been a past thing like, many people, do when they hear of a congenital heart defect, may have thought of like a hole in the heart or something like that. But my previous boyfriends, I usually told up front. Anyone that wanted to date me, I told up front, just because I felt like it would be a waste of their time and my time if they didn't really want someone with health issues or wanted to deal with it. So, yeah, I usually was very upfront about it.
I think it's always good to just lay your cards on the table.
Definitely.
And if you wear a V-neck shirt, then people will see a scar and they might wonder. So why make them wonder? Might as well just tell them the truth from the beginning.
I think all guys wondered from my scar when I wore a low-cut shirt. I think probably most guys in their 20s were probably looking at something else.
That's entirely possible, Lauren. Oh, Lauren. Lauren, how did your parents react when you told them that you were getting married?
My dad had been dating Chris's aunt for quite a long time. He already kind of considered Chris part of the family and thought he was a great guy, and my mom thought he was a great guy. So they knew that we were probably going to end up married. It was kind of sprung on them, though, because we wanted to get married before we moved cross-country, so I had good health insurance. So we kind of speed things up a little bit, and we're like, hey, so we called the courthouse, and we're going to get married December 21st. Well, I'll let you know so you guys come if you can. And they're like, what? And, so I think they kind of hoped that we were going to have a wedding, but they were still very happy for us because they knew we were right for each other. I think it was just the whole wedding thing that kind of was more of a shock to them, I guess.
But, I mean, it's not like you brought him home and married him in a week. You guys dated for quite a while before you got married, so it probably wasn't a huge surprise, except like you said,
so
that you didn't.
It wasn't too surprising for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it seems like they're all perfectly fine with Chris. They're happy that he's part of the family now.
Oh, absolutely. Even my parents are. I mean, they think he takes wonderful care of me, and I know it's hard for PhD parents to give up that position to a spouse, but my parents have, and they really fully trust him and know that he will do the best for me and my health. That makes me happy. So. Yeah,
that is so important. I'm glad you recognize that as a parent, it's hard to give up that position in your child's life when you're used to being the one to take them to their doctor's appointments and you're used to being the one who's responsible for them medically. To all of a sudden just hand that off to somebody else is scary.
Definitely. No, it was hard for them. I think now they're perfectly comfortable. Not to say that they don't call and ask and make sure I'm doing all right, but they definitely trust Chris to be my voice if they're not there.
Yeah, that's so special. What advice would you have for somebody with a congenital heart defect who wants to get married?
Oh, I've talked to many women who want to get married, and some of them haven't found anyone yet, and I know a lot of them can be discouraged, but I always say, I found Chris and I stopped looking. And to be honest with you, I say there are guys out there, and there are girls out there that want to marry us. You just have to keep looking and find the right one. Definitely, it's possible. So don't give up. Don't lose hope. Don't be negative about it. And maybe you'll find the right one when you stop looking. Because you have to focus on yourself and be okay with yourself first.
Right. I think that's good advice. Maybe you'll find somebody when you stop looking, and to focus on being the best you that you can be. You needed to be the best Lauren that you could be, so when you found Chris, you were ready.
Definitely.
Can you tell us about any plans that you might have for starting a family?
Yeah, we are hoping once we move down to Austin, Texas, we can eventually get a house, and then we want to pursue gestational surrogacy, which is someone carries our biological child, just so it's not as high of risk or risking my health in order to have a child, but we still get a biological child, so we get the best of both worlds where I know my health, but I still get that biological connection. And I actually wrote about being a mom and always wanting to be a mom and getting married on my blog, which is Special Heart, Big Dreams, I believe it is. And I wrote a blog about that, and it's a very raw feeling, but it's an interesting read if anyone wants to, about how I'm this far and why I'm patiently waiting in order to have that child one day. So.
I love your blog, and I will be putting a link to that on the www.hearttoheartwithanna.com website under bios. So if you look under the tab that says bios, you'll be able to see the information about Lauren, and then I will have a link to her blog. So you don't have to worry about writing it down. If you're listening to the show, you can just check out the website, and then you'll be able to directly go to Lauren's blog and be able to read about some of the things that she's hoping and dreaming about. She even talks about being a little girl and dreaming about getting married and having a family, so it's a very sweet blog. Is there anything else that you want to share with our listeners about finding true love, Lauren?
I think I covered everything, actually. Never give up, and don't let CHD stand in the way. Just because you have a CHD doesn't mean you can't have normal life experiences, which is getting married and having a family. So don't ever think you have to give that up because you have a heart condition.
I think that's excellent advice. You're right. There is hope as long as you are doing well. There's no reason why you shouldn't have a relationship with somebody else and enjoy that time with that person too, because I think we all have something special that we can share with one another. Well, thanks for being on the show, Lauren. Now I'm going to talk to your better half, as they say, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
So now we're going to talk to Chris and ask him a couple questions. Let me tell the audience a little bit about you. Chris is 29 years old, and he works as an engineer at the well-known Intel company. He married Lauren on December 21st, 2011 in Southeast Michigan before moving to Northern California for his Intel job. His number one priority is Lauren's health, and is even relocating for her to be closer to better medical care. So welcome to Heart with Anna, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm happy to have you, and I know that you are a little bit shy, so I'm not going to put you on the spot too much. We'll just have a little conversation here. Can you tell me what you thought when you found out that Lauren had a heart defect and had had open heart surgery?
I was just first curious, I guess, as an engineer or maybe a student, what did it mean, to have that congenital heart disease? I had no family members or friends that had a CHD, so I really had no idea what that meant. In the back of my mind, I feared for the worst for her, but she looks so healthy, and talking to her, she sounds just like any other student, so somebody my age, so I didn't think it was going to be too bad. But after reading up on it a little bit before I met Lauren, actually Googled it to try to figure out exactly what that means, and I didn't really get a good understanding of it until I really got a chance to know her and what kind of complications she can have from that. So at first I was a little afraid for her, but at the same time, the medical community from across the board has gotten so much better over the last 20 years that nothing's impossible. Medical discoveries are made every day.
I know. It really is quite amazing. My son will be 20 next month, and I feel like I have just been watching the whole congenital heart defect world explode. There are so many new discoveries, and there are new drugs, and there are new procedures. It really is quite amazing trying to keep up with it. And there is a lot of hope for children who are born today, and even for people like Lauren and Alex who are, quote-unquote, old survivors. But I'm so impressed that you actually looked up information on the Internet about congenital heart defect before you even went on a date with Lauren. That's pretty amazing.
Well, I like to understand things. Anytime I hear something I'm not familiar with, I'm always curious, and so if I was going to, meet this person, talk to them, help them out, I thought it was important for me to understand a little bit about, where they're coming from, their past life experiences. So, yeah, but I have a bit of a curiosity, but at the same time, I'd like to be able to relate to that person before I talk to them. So coming into the first time, especially when you're meeting someone from my perspective, I'm being a shy person, you get a little nervous, and so the more knowledge you have, the more you can talk about, the more you can relate.
Right. Knowledge is power. I agree with that 100%. So then you got to know Lauren, and one of the things that we didn't really talk about much, Lauren and I, on the air, but she and I have talked about before, is that the two of you went to the same college.
Yeah, it's a small world, as they say, right?
But you said your paths probably never would have crossed on campus because you were in the engineering building and she was in the psychology department.
Yeah, different sides of campus. So, although it's entirely possible, I could have walked across her not even knowing. There's a lot of students at that school, so.
Right.
But no, when I first saw her, I never met her. Ironically, I have taken psychology courses too at the school, but I took it at a different time.
Mm-hmm.
We both go into the same school. I think it's a pretty common school to go to. With the University of Michigan, Dearborn, where we're from, that was a pretty common university to go to, outside of going to University of Michigan, Ann Arbor.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got to know Lauren for quite a while before you popped the question, it sounds like. So what was your biggest fear in actually deciding to get married to Lauren?
My biggest fear is, would I be successful enough to support her? It's not cheap. It's very expensive, and she's going to need another open heart sometime, at least one, if not more. So it's very expensive, and so I was concerned about, being, a lot of kids, who are graduating school have this fear in the back of their mind, can I get a job in this marketplace, in this economy? Can I be able to have enough, good enough insurance to help, get her through this? How is this going to set us back from having a family or having a house? So these things crept up in my mind. I was mostly concerned about her, but I felt at the same time, this is, I loved her. I wanted to take care of her, and I wanted to, and I thought, I felt like I could provide that for her. So on top of the emotional, attraction, and we knew each other. We're very compatible people, so that wasn't in the question at all. It was just, to me, if you had a huge checklist, the only one I was concerned about was, can I support her financially? And so far, so good. Knock on wood. I think I've been pretty fortunate where a lot of college students are really struggling right now.
You're right. There are so many students who graduate from college and then can't get a job and end up having to move back home with their parents and work a job unrelated to the field they got a degree in, and that hasn't been the case for you. And, in fact, you've made extraordinary efforts to see to Lauren's care, even flying her out of state so that she could seek medical care in another state. Isn't that true?
Yeah, so we kind of learned a little bit on the fly. We, starting from Ann Arbor, we started from, from the University or Children's Hospital of Michigan in Detroit. Then we went to University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. And then we flew out to Stanford, and we weren't sure what to do from there as far as the best. So we flew out to Sacramento. It's where I'm living right now. And we knew that Sacramento was going to have good enough care, so we're hoping Stanford would be good enough. And then we also were flying to Atlanta, Georgia, and then we found finally Houston. So her health number one. I mean, and I want her to live here a very long time. I don't like to take risks. And if there's anything we can do preventive maintenance-wise, we've got to do it. Unfortunately, in the CHD world, it only seems like there's a few experts out there that you can really trust. So we'll do whatever it takes to get that medical care for her.
I love it that you have been so open to sending her wherever she needs to go so that she feels comfortable with the care that she is receiving. You're right. Even though the adult population is growing practically exponentially, the number of professionals working with our adults is not. I don't think they can keep up with the number of adults that are joining their ranks. And so there are a limited number of places where especially kids with a Fontan heart or young adults with a Fontan heart can go to receive the kind of care that you want them to receive, where there is a large enough population that you know that the doctors are not seeing something for the very first time, but these are things that they've seen before and they have experience with it, so they won't freak out if something happens. So I think that you've done an excellent job in being a terrific advocate for Lauren and being so supportive of her. So thank you, Chris, and especially thank you for coming to Texas, because I can't wait to meet the two of you.
For adults, I really feel for them. There's a lot of hospitals that that will take care of as any adults. Some of them are just not, they're not the experts in the field. They're very new to that field, and we didn't feel comfortable with some of the doctors that we met, so felt very comfortable in Houston, though. It really, really pays off, I think, to do your homework.
Oh, I think so, too. So now you have several years of experience and getting to know Lauren and now being married for a couple of years. So what advice would you give to someone else who's planning on marrying somebody with a congenital heart defect?
I would say, especially, I think people learn from their experience, and unfortunately, if you don't know a whole lot of other people, there's not a whole lot of opportunities to learn. But what I've learned a lot is just find the right places to build your career around, which is very inconvenient for a lot of people. It might take you away from family, it might take you away from friends, but just be ready for change, be ready to move. If you have to move away from where you currently live, don't be afraid of that. So do your homework. There's some hospitals are better than others for whatever your wife or husband will have, and so you got to be a partner in this. You've got to embrace it just as much as they do. You can't just try to live in ignorance in the marriage. That's not good for your spouse.
That's excellent advice. I really love that, to be ready for change. I think that's true no matter if you're married to someone who's a congenital heart defect survivor or not. Things happen, and you always have to be ready to change and to move to do what's best for the whole relationship. And I can tell you're a good student because you like to talk about doing your homework. And I think that's true for most things in life, too, being prepared. I don't know if you were a Boy Scout, but both my boys were, and that's one of the key elements is to do your homework, to be prepared, be ready, and to be a good partner and embrace your partner. I love that because that's what all married couples should do. They should embrace each other. We all have unique qualities. We all have times that we go through that are hard times, and we have to meet each other halfway. And sometimes you're going 80% of the way and they're only going 20%, and then it is the reverse at other times. So that's what makes a marriage last. My husband and I just celebrated our 28th wedding anniversary last month. Thank you. So I've been married almost as long as you guys have been alive.
That's
but
very
hopefully
true. But
someday this will be you, and you all will have a nice long marriage too. It looks like you're on the right track, and I think you're both very special people. So I want to thank you both for coming on the show and for sharing with us. I know, Chris, this isn't the kind of thing that you normally do, so I really appreciate you coming on and talking with me today.
Sure. No problem. Thank you.
Now we'll take a quick commercial break, but don't leave, because coming up we have another couple who will tell us about finding love and find out how one of the oldest hypoplastic-left-heart syndrome survivors found love and what new activity her husband has started that just might change the way the world views married CHD survivors when we return to Heart with Anna.
Anna Jaworski has written several books to empower the congenital heart defect, or CHD, community. These books can be found at Amazon.com or at her website, www.babyheartspress.com. Her bestseller is The Heart of a Mother, an anthology of stories written by women for women in the CHD community. Anna's other books, My Brother Needs an Operation, The Heart of a Father, and Hypoplastic-Left-Heart Syndrome, a handbook for parents, will help you understand that you are not alone. Visit babyheartspress.com to find out more.
Welcome back to our show, Heart to Heart with Anna, a show for the congenital heart defect community. Today we are talking with HRHS survivor Lauren Bednarz and her husband Chris, as well as HLHS survivor Jenny Busta and her husband Nick about finding love and being married. We just finished talking with Lauren about how she told her husband about her heart defect, well, actually how her dad told her husband, her future plans for her family, and how her family reacted when she told them she was getting married. We also talked with Chris about his biggest fear in getting married and what advice he would give to someone else planning on marrying a congenital heart defect survivor. Now we will turn our attention to Jenny and Nick Busta. Jenny Busta was born in 1985 with hypoplastic-left-heart syndrome, or HLHS. She had the Norwood procedure at 1 day of age and the Fontan procedure at 17 months of age. She received a pacemaker when she was 3 years old and has had numerous pacemaker replacements and heart catheterizations since then. She is happily married to Nick Busta, whom she met in an America Online chat room when they were just 14 years old. They were wed 7 years later in Oxnard, California, and will be celebrating their 7-year anniversary on July 14th, 2014. Thank you for coming on Heart to Heart with Anna, Jenny.
I'm so glad to be here, Anna. Thank you for having me.
Well, I remember you and I doing an AOL chat ourselves when you were in high school, and I remember you telling me about Nick and how sweet he was. When did you know he was the one?
Well, thinking back then, I knew, like, from certain things that he would do little things. Like, he gave me a promise ring just a few months after we had met. But something that really sticks out in my mind is the story that I love to tell, and we were celebrating our 1-year anniversary of dating, and we went out to a nice Italian restaurant, and then we took a short walk to this park, and even now we call it our park. And I was talking to him about how I would get bullied and how much damage that was that it did to me, and how guys would just be walking down just a hallway, and when they would go past me, they would say, "Oh, you're ugly," and they would just keep walking. And so I was telling Nick this, and then we stopped there was a basketball court in the park, and he said, "Okay, hold on, wait here." And so I just waited. He walked away just a little bit, and then he started walking towards me again, and he was kind of pretending like he was one of those boys, like talking to his friends. And then when he came back to me, he said, "You're beautiful," instead of "You're ugly." And so that's the moment when I knew he was the one for me.
Oh, that is such a sweet story. That is so sweet. Well, he really listened and tuned into what it was what had hurt your heart so deeply, and he found a way, and it was very simple and yet so profound for him to let you know that they were wrong and that he saw how beautiful you were. Just love that story. That's so sweet.
Thank you.
Well, you have been so blessed finding him, but you've also been blessed with having really good health for most of your life. But I'm sure that you have some upcoming procedures. We just heard Chris talk about Lauren probably needing procedures in her future, and I know that can be worrisome for any family. How do you and Nick deal with those issues?
See, I'll give you an example. Recently, I thought that I was going to need to go in for a pacemaker replacement and a lead change. And I've never had my leads changed other than when they initially put them in when I was 3 years old. So I know it's a more invasive surgery. And so I was, a little scared about that. But we ended up holding off on the surgery because the leads are still looking good, going strong, and the battery as well, and my pacemaker is still going well. But in regards to how we deal with that is our faith in Christ, and just depending on Him and trusting that He knows what's best, and whatever comes our way, that's how we look at things. So it says in Philippians 4, "Be anxious for nothing," and so we really try and uphold that to the best of our abilities. So that's how we do it.
You're very open about that on the video blog that Nick has started, and I love how the two of you come on together and you talk about some of these issues. So we'll be talking more with Nick about his video blog, but this is something that actually both he and Jenny are doing, and there will be a link to that on the Heart to Heart with Anna website. So I went and watched every single episode. There are only 4 episodes so far, but it's been very interesting to see what topics you all have chosen to talk about. And at the very beginning, you're just introducing the whole concept, and we're getting to know Nick and Jenny. But I think you have a lot of material that you can go over. So I'm really happy that we kind of are able to debut it on this radio show, and people can go learn more.
That.
Yeah, and people can go learn more by looking at the video blog, which I think is really cool. I feel lucky that I got in at the very beginning. I didn't have to spend hours and hours watching it. And, in fact, it's funny because you told me about it, I guess, last week, and I watched the first 3, and then I went to check on it right before writing my script, and I saw that there was another episode up. And I love it that the video blogs are pretty short. I don't think any of them are more than 10 minutes. So it's a nice little sneak peek, and it's not too overwhelming. Jenny, what is your biggest concern as a married woman now?
Well, that would probably be like, just am I being the best wife I can be with my abilities to do what God has called me to do as Nick's wife. And I mean, there are some days where I just feel so discouraged because I feel like I can't get out of bed. I'm really weak, and I just need rest. And it's a bummer because I want to have more energy, and it gets frustrating at times. But sometimes you just got to breathe and just take a little rest, and then you feel better. But just for that moment, it's like you want to be your best, and you can't be because of your physical limitations. And so that would probably be my main concern, is just being a good wife to Nick and doing what God has called me to do as his wife, and I embrace it, and I am so happy to be able to do that, and so I want to do it to the best of my ability. So.
That's beautiful. I love that. And really everybody should be concerned that they're being the best person they can be for their spouse. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the ways that we have a loving relationship, because if you're only thinking about yourself and what you are doing for yourself, the world is pretty small. You really need to be thinking about others. And that brings me to my next question. So you and Nick have already been married for 7 years, and there are no children.
Tomorrow.
I know, 7 years tomorrow. That's so exciting. But you have no children yet, and I'm wondering, are you planning on having children, or do you have furry children? Do you have something else in your life that fills you up?
In regards to having kids, Nick and I have decided that we do not plan on having children because of all the risks that it takes. We don't feel empty without kids, and we're really happy, just the two of us. Actually, we do have a furry little daughter. Her name is Luna. So she's our little kitty, and we appreciate having her around and being able to take care of her and stuff. So, but in regards to human children, I mean, it could change. But right now, like, we just don't see us being mom and dad. I mean, we're really happy with what we're doing, and I know you're going to talk to Nick later, but he's a teacher, and so I just feel like God has really helped us in that way. Like, in a way, Nick looks like his students are his kids, because in a way, you know, he's with them a lot on his job, and so, and then me being involved with the congenital heart disease community and reaching out to families, that's what I do, and in a way, I feel like I want to be there for those kids. And so if I have my own kids, I wouldn't be able to do that. And so we're both happy with where we are in our life right now. Like I said, it could change, you know, and God could definitely have a different plan than what we have. And we're more than open to that. So.
Well, speaking as a teacher myself, like Nick, I was a teacher in he's in a private school. I taught in a public school. And yes, I felt like all of my students were my children. And in fact, after school, I would go get my little furry child, Casey, who's a little toy poodle, and I would pick her up and take her back to the school because I taught at a residential school and the children were not allowed to have pets. So I would bring Casey back, and I was a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing, and Casey knew sign language commands, so she could sit and bark and dance, and oh my goodness, all my students just loved Casey. She got so much loving when I took her to the football games and to some of the other games, and it is amazing how as a teacher you do embrace your students, and they do become like an extended part of your family. And personally, since I've met you and Nick at a congenital heart defect event, I can attest to the fact that you are an inspiration to probably thousands of people across the world. And what you do really does make a difference, Jenny.
Well, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that.
Well, you meant so much to me when I met you online, and your mother wrote for my book, The Heart of a Mother, and your dad wrote for my book, The Heart of a Father. I feel like your family is part of my family. And I remember watching you. Yeah, I remember watching you grow up, and I remember thinking, yes, Jenny can make it. Jenny's healthy. Jenny's doing all the things that I hope Alex will do someday. And you gave me so much hope that my little boy would grow up and be able to go to high school and have friends and fall in love, because I was watching you do all of this. So since you two have the same heart defect, you really did give me so much hope and inspiration.
Thank you. That truly means a lot to me.
Oh, I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. You have done so much, and I don't even have any questions about the movie that you were in, but we really do need to make sure that we put the link to the movie that you were in, too, because I know that you touched people with the movie that you were in. So there's been so many ways that you have touched families. But let's talk about Nick's blog real quick, because that is something that I'll be talking to him about, too. Why did you decide to join him on that project?
Well, I just felt that, I know Nick can say a lot of good things, a lot of helpful things to help spouses who are married with to a congenital heart disease patient. But as the congenital heart disease patient, I felt that I could be a help too, and just to be able to help relate and to get our message out there. Like, yeah, marriage is amazing. All these awesome words, but it's also work. And I mean that, and I mean the best way possible, but, it's, and so, yeah, I just felt like I wanted to help out, and that we can do it as a team, because that's how Nick and I work. And so I'm really glad that he's open to having me on his blog, and that we can hopefully help out CHD couples, worldwide. We heard from somebody in the UK, so that was really exciting. So, yeah, that's it's really neat.
Well, I have to tell you, this is kind of almost before my time, so I know it's definitely before your time, but there was a very famous comedic couple known as Gracie and George Burns. And they used to do television together sometimes, and they did radio together sometimes, and you reminded me of them. It was a couple who was very much in love, and Gracie was just always so silly, and you've been so silly at the beginning of some of the videos that I thought, oh my gosh, she reminds me of Gracie Burns. So if you ever get a chance to look up George and Gracie Burns, you should look them up, because you're like a modern version of that couple.
Okay.
Well, I have one more question for you. Yes, you should. I'll have to see if I can find any, and if I can, I'll send you the links. I have one more question for you, and then I get to talk to Nick. What is your best advice for finding true love if you were born with a congenital heart defect?
I would say just always be honest, because when you're honest and upfront with them about your condition, and whether they take it good or bad, whoever the person is, it doesn't matter, a friendship or a marriage, it's kind of the same thing. It's the people who take it well and who want to be there for you and who love you are going to stick. And so when you're not honest and upfront with them, then that's showing that you're scared or you're ashamed of your condition. You should never be ashamed. And so one is to be honest, and two is to never think that you don't deserve love. Because I remember even, when we were dating, we dated for a long time before we got married, I was scared that I was going to die young, and I would push away Nick. Not that I wanted him to leave, but I just felt like if I was going to die young, I never wanted to put anybody through that. And so, don't do that, because you deserve love, and You deserve love. Anybody.
I couldn't say it better. Exactly. All of you deserve love. We all deserve love. And you shouldn't think that your heart defect in some way disqualifies you from deserving love. I love that, Jenny.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Let me talk to your husband now, and we'll be back in the third segment, okay?
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Nick Busta is a middle school teacher at a private Christian school, an avid endurance athlete. He is a two-time Ironman triathlon finisher. He married Jenny on July 14, 2007 in Oxnard, California. In his spare time, he has started a video blog entitled Loving a Broken Heart, which he hopes will provide support and encouragement for spouses of CHD warriors. Welcome to Heart with Anna, Nick.
Thank you, Anna. It's a pleasure to talk to you again.
Oh, it's always an honor to talk to you, Nick, and I have so enjoyed watching your blog.
Well, thank you very, very much. I appreciate that.
I was a little surprised at how candid you and Jenny were. So let's talk about one of the questions that you said you are most often asked. You said you're often asked, what do you think about the possibility of Jenny dying? And in your blog, you took a very spiritual approach to answering that question. But I'm wondering, how do you think that people who don't have that strong a spiritual background can come to grips with a question like that regarding someone they love?
You know, Anna, that's a great question, and it's a really difficult question for me to answer just because my faith in Christ, which I do talk about in the video blog, it's what I know. It's all of me, to put it one way. I think there's a lot of people have this misconception that being spiritual or having religion, or depending on how people say it or think it, it's considered a tool. So, you know, it works, but you're still the primary one in control, and you have other tools at your disposal that can help you cope. But my faith in Christ, it's not a tool, it's everything, and it's what directs how I talk, how I think, how I pray, how I reach out to other people, how I consider Jenny's heart condition. And so what I would say to people who don't see it, who don't, I guess, as you put, to have it from a spiritual background, I would say to, really consider it, think about it, because it's in this world where so much can happen, so much hurt, in the Lord there really is comfort and strength in His Word. So, but to go back to your first question, which was how I cope, it's a difficult question for anyone to answer, but I have come to peace with it, with the idea, with the truth that I'm not God. It's not in my control. And so if it's the Lord's will that she go home, she gets to go to a place where there's no heart conditions, where she's in absolute paradise with her Creator. And as painful as it will be to see her go, I know that she'll be much better taken care of than anything I can do. And also, I'll get to see her again. It won't be a goodbye. It'll be a, I'll see you later. Well done for getting there.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I like what you said in your video blog, which was, we have no guarantees, any of us. Yes, there's a possibility Jenny could pass away first, but there's also a possibility you could pass away first. There are no guarantees for anyone. And so what you have to do is live each day to the fullest. And in your video blog, you did a really nice job of explaining how your faith has helped you come to that sense of peace. I really loved watching you talk about that and to express your feelings. I was just curious how you felt somebody who didn't have so much faith, how they could deal with something like that. Because, like you said, your faith seems to be almost like the pattern of your life, the pattern of who you are that allows you to accept all of this. But I know that some people don't have that, and I think that maybe it's a little bit harder for them to come to that sense of peace if they don't have that reassurance that, yes, they will see their loved one again, and somebody else who's greater than they are is really in control. We aren't in control. We aren't. Control is a misnomer.
It really is.
Really
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, at first, it looked like you were going to do the blog alone, and then you decided to do the blog with Jenny sometimes. Sometimes you don't. What do you think is the benefit of having both of you doing the blog together?
Oh, man, I absolutely love it. When Jenny first, suggested, well, maybe I can come on, I was like, that's a fantastic idea. When you think about it, I mean, when I first started the video blog, you can see in the first video, I keep saying I, because I figured I would be doing it alone. But then in the second video, Jenny comes along. And what I am so appreciative of is the idea that not only can you get the perspective of the spouse through me, but you can get the perspective of the patient. And so now it's not just something for spouses to watch, so to speak, but now it's encouraging to think that the couple will watch, and not just married couples. It could be people who are engaged. It can be couples who are seriously dating and are considering, whether marriage is in their future. They can see what's going to happen from both sides. And like what Jenny mentioned earlier is that, we're a team. And as I think I could have, done okay, with the blog, but having Jenny by my side, it really, I think it brings the video blog up to a whole new level. And to tell you the truth, I feel much more comfortable with my wife right beside me. So it helps me to be more relaxed, too, just knowing that my best friend is right there to help me out and for me to help her out.
I thought it had a nice sense of balance. And there was one episode where you were talking about the possibility of Jenny passing away, and she wasn't there then, and it was appropriate for her not to be there then. So I can see where you might want to discuss some issues where it would be more appropriate for you to be alone, or possibly even more appropriate for Jenny to be alone, and you're the one running the camera. But as a whole, I think the whole concept of the video blog where you are a team and each of you have this special perspective that you can contribute really makes a very nice contribution to the congenital heart defect world.
Well, I'm glad it came across that way, Anna. That's exactly what we were going for, so thank you.
Well, you're welcome. It has been a joy. I'll be tuning in. Trust me, I will be tuning in.
Wonderful.
Nick, you've been married for almost 7 years. That's just so hard for me to believe that it's been almost 7 years. And it's just been you and Jenny, although I did find out about Luna just a minute ago. What do you think about the possibility of the two of you ever having children? I talked to Jenny, and she talked about how your school children are like your children, like an extended part of the family. But what is your feeling about possibly having children in your future?
I'm glad you asked, Anna. And, we've spoken about this a lot throughout our marriage, not just at the beginning or before we were married, but throughout. And I can tell you, I know with all certainty, Jenny would be a phenomenal mother. And I think I would be a father. We'll see how that goes. But
you would be great. You are such a loving person. You would be awesome.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I think we would be a great team. But, as she mentioned, we have spoken about it extensively. And while at this time we are both very comfortable with it being just Jenny and me for the reasons that we've spoken about before, it gives us the flexibility for us to be able to travel further away to meet with heart families, for both of us to go there and to connect with them and give support in whatever way we can. It gives us time to really just be there for each other, to be the husband and wife that our Lord commands us to be, that we do joyfully. But at the same time, we also know that our plans we know this from experience, that our plans aren't necessarily the Lord's plans. And so there is always a possibility that Jenny either she may become pregnant or that we might adopt down the line. We don't know. It's all up to the Lord, but we will, whatever the future holds, we will take it knowing that we're in His hands. And so it would be an adventure, one way or another.
Oh, trust me, being a parent is an adventure, that's for sure.
I believe it.
when Alex was identified with HLHS and I was talking to the doctors, they were telling me that, well, it's a good thing he's a boy because you don't have to worry about him getting pregnant, that it was something that girls couldn't do. But over the last several years, we've actually seen in the literature that there are some women who were born with hypoplastic-left-heart syndrome who have been able to have children. So
absolutely
I
true,
think
yeah.
that the future is uncertain right now because medical developments are happening so fast. It's really hard to keep up with it. But I'm glad that you're open because you two would be such wonderful parents, and I can see where I'm glad you have Luna. But I would love to see you two have your own special child. And I know that you're very, very close to Jenny's family, which lives very close physically to you.
Yes.
And I'm glad that you have that because the love just oozes out of the two of you. When you're together, it's just so apparent how much you care for each other. And you're the kind of people who should be parents. So,
well, coming from
that's
an experienced mother, we really appreciate the kind words. Thank you.
Well, it's been my pleasure to meet you, and I hope we get a chance to see each other again in the future. So
absolutely.
I am so curious with this blog of yours what topics you're going to be addressing in the future. Can you give us a few teasers of things that we can expect in the future?
Certainly. We do keep it a little open-ended in that we love to answer any questions or respond to any comments that people post either on our actual website, which thank you again for posting a link through your podcast, but also on the comment section of the YouTube videos. So we leave it open for that, but we've also talked about wanting to open things up more so that instead of it's just Jenny and me talking, we want to provide opportunities for other spouses, both that we know of, but ones that we may not have had the pleasure of getting to know, to be able to chime in and let us know their take. The whole premise of the blog was that perhaps someone who was more creative or more technologically inclined would be able to pick it up and run with it and be able to do huge, amazing things with the community. So, we leave it up to starting something for the community to take a hold of and for spouses to be able to just say, let's talk about this and let's have a conversation. So whatever they want to do, whatever they want to talk about, let's do it.
Well, I have a feeling it will be hugely successful, and I hope that you do get some other people on your show. I think it adds a great variety to have a show where you have lots of guests. This show would be so boring if it was just me talking. What I love about doing the radio show is that I'm constantly talking to new people, and sometimes I'm talking to old friends like I am tonight, and it just makes me feel so good when I'm done. I always feel like I've learned something new. I always feel like we've shared something that can empower the heart community or uplift the heart community. And I got the same feeling when I was watching your video blog, that your purpose for doing it was to lift up the heart community. So once again, let me commend you for your video blog, and I will be checking it out periodically to see when you add something new. I think it's a really beautiful idea to share with each other. Not everybody's open to sharing like that. It's something very personal, but I think the fact that you and Jenny are willing to share might help others to share their fears or concerns or their joys. And when you share joy, it's multiplied, and when you share sorrow or fears, they're divided. So by doing that with friends in a safe place, it helps to draw the whole community together.
Very well put. Thank you very much for saying that, Anna.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for coming on the show, and you too, Jenny. Thank you for sharing your opinions and your experience with us. Now we have one more commercial break, but don't go far. Stay tuned because we still have the question and answer portion of our show. Although we're running out of time, we're not going to have much time, but we will be able to take maybe one or two questions. Stay tuned after the commercial break, and we'll have all of us in the studio together.
Anna Jaworski has spoken around the world at congenital heart defect events, and she is available as a keynote or guest speaker for your event. Go to hearttoheartwithanna.com to learn more about booking Anna for your event. You can also find out more about the radio program, keep up to date with CHD resources and information about advocacy groups, as well as read Anna's weekly blog. Anna wants you to stay well connected and participate in the CHD community. Visit hearttoheartwithanna.com today.
back to our show, Heart to Heart with Anna, a show for the congenital heart defect community. Today we are talking with HRHS survivor Lauren Bernards and her husband Chris, as well as HLHS survivor Jenny Busta and her husband Nick about finding love and being married. We've talked with Lauren about her dad, who told her husband about her heart defect and her future plans for her family and how her family reacted when she told them that she was getting married. We also talked with Chris about his biggest fear in getting married and what advice he would give to someone else planning on marrying a congenital heart defect survivor. Then we just talked with Jenny about how she and Nick are dealing with upcoming medical issues and her plans for her future with Nick. And we talked to Nick about his video blog, Loving a Broken Heart. It's on YouTube. The link will be on the Heart to Heart with Anna website under the bios section, so please make sure you check it out. And I just want to thank them so much. I want to thank all 4 of you for coming on the show. You were all sensational, and I feel like I always learn something new when I talk to all 4 of you. So thank you for coming on Heart to Heart with Anna.
Thank
Our
you.
pleasure, Anna. Thank you.
I wish we were all looking at each other in the studio because I always feel kind of awkward when I put everyone in the studio. Nobody knows when they're supposed to talk. But you guys just did okay. I know you all have just given me so much hope because when Alex was born and they were giving me such dismal odds of him surviving, there was an 8-hour surgery. That Norwood procedure feels like it goes on forever and ever, and you're left in that waiting room wondering and planning. And I was wondering if Alex would be able to grow up, and talking to you and seeing how you live such normal, healthy, happy lives gives me so much hope for my own son and so many of my other friends who have children with heart defects. So thanks again to all 4 of you for coming on the show.
No problem. It's our pleasure.
Thank you, Anna.
Definitely our pleasure.
Well, we only have a couple minutes, so I did have a couple people who posted some questions on the Facebook event page that I had created. And the biggest concern, comment, private message that I got was from other congenital heart defect survivors saying that they wondered where you could find somebody who really understood their unique situation and who would love them despite their heart defects. So does anyone want to add anything else? I think we've already had some really good conversations with Lauren and with Jenny, but what about you gentlemen? Do you want to add anything about what makes you all so special that you were willing to be boyfriends to these girls with these funky hearts and see past the scars to the people who were really deep inside? I'll start with you, Nick, because you're the old married man of the 2.
Sure. Okay, I'll be brief to make sure Chris has some time. Really what I think Chris would agree with this, but I'll leave it to him, of course, is that when you meet someone that you really know is to be special, and that they're special and they're incredible, it makes it very easy to look past anything that might be difficult because you see the beauty in the person that you love. I look at Jenny and I fell in love with her through our many conversations, through emails and instant messaging over the phone because we had a long-distance relationship for a while. And it made it so that I didn't care that she had a heart problem. She was so amazing, I had to be with her. When you find that someone, and it is possible, there are people like that in the world, they look at your heart problem and they go, it doesn't make you difficult, it makes you unique and it makes you who you are. And I love that about you, so let me spend the rest of my life with you, please.
That was beautifully put. Okay, Chris, now I put you on the spot. As the younger married man, what's your take on this situation?
I can understand the fear of being accepted from friends, from boyfriends, girlfriends. It's really tough, but I think that when you find quality people, they have no problem looking past that. They'll fall in love with the person they are, and it doesn't matter that they have a congenital heart disease. It's the person that you love more than anything. And really care about that person. You'll be willing to do whatever it takes. There's a lot of people out there who are not like that, but at the same time, I see it as a good filtering mechanism.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wish I could clone you 2 gentlemen because I know there are a lot of other women out there who have congenital heart defects who would give anything to meet 2 men like you who are able to look past their funky hearts and into the beautiful spirits of the people that own those funky hearts. So I just want to thank you because I love Lauren and Jenny. They've been my friends for a long, long time, and I feel blessed to know the two of you, and I really can't wait to meet you face-to-face, Chris. This is the first time we've really had an extended conversation. Well, that concludes this episode of Heart to Heart with Anna, and I hope everybody who is listening has been as inspired and uplifted as I have.
Thank you for listening today. Please come back next week on Tuesday at noon Eastern Time for a brand new episode. During the month of February, also known as Heart Month, Heart to Heart with Anna will broadcast a show every day. On Tuesdays, we'll have a brand new show featuring our theme for Season 7, Congenital Heart Defects Around the Globe. The other days will be encore presentations with a brand new intro. If you'd like to know what shows will be featured, you can check out our website at www.hearttoheartwithanna.com. Please find and like us on Facebook. Check out our Cafe Press Boutique. Revenue from the Cafe Press Boutique helps to defray the cost of this radio show. Follow our radio show on Blog Talk Radio and especially on Spreaker. Once we get to 100 followers on Spreaker, we can petition iHeartRadio to carry our show, and then people can listen to Heart with Anna in their cars. Thanks again for listening. We know that congenital heart defects touch people all over the globe, so remember, my friends, you are not alone.
Thank you again for joining us this week. We hope you've been inspired and empowered to become an advocate for the congenital heart defect community. Heart to Heart with Anna, with your host Anna Jaworski, can be heard every Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern Time. We'll talk again next week.